Before starting the session, I'll just have an introduction of myself. My name is Krish. I am a senior technical consultant and trainer. I'm certified on AWS Certified Security Specialty. I work on this AWS platform for the last 10 years with a total experience of 14 years. I basically concentrate on AWS cloud infrastructure security, Linux, open source, things like that, ethical hacking, security, and those kind of things. And we'll start now. Okay. So the first thing which we are going to understand or which we are going to discuss is actually the certifications AWS has. Okay, AWS is actually like why does AWS is actually offering this much certifications? That's a discussion topic actually now. It's why because basically this AWS previously this in our industry this certifications are very critical. Basically in any others IT industry, even if for now as well, the certifications are very critical. That means that to validate your skills and uh, to pitch into some new openings or those kinds of things, this is mandatory. Okay, so we have multiple levels or multiple types of certification in AWS, which can be according to the levels or the job roles as well. So the very foundation certification, yeah, Uday, I think, can I see the screen? If you are not able to see the screen, please just sign out and please sign in. Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, Chris. Actually, just logged in via mobile. I will log out.
No problem. Sure, definitely. Okay. So actually, the first certification in AWS is the foundation certification, which is called as the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, and that is the very fundamental certification. If a person just want to understand what is AWS and want to know just the fundamentals and the very basics of AWS, the certification can help. The certification assumes no prior experience in AWS platform. It covers the very basic topics like the AWS cloud infrastructure, how it is working, and uh, there's some basic services like EC2, S3, or those kind of things, and how the billing and cost management works. Those kind of things are discussed in this AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner certification. And the next level of certification is the associate level. In this associate level certification, actually we have three certifications, which is the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, the AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate, and the AWS Certified Developer Associate. These certifications, which are the AWS Certified Cloud Practice, the Solutions Architect Associate, the SysOps Administrator Associate, and Developer Associate, assumes that you have some very basic knowledge in AWS, but that is not mandatory. And previously, when you attend an AWS certification, for example, if you want to write a professional certification in AWS, you must have an associate certification. That was a previous requirement. For example, if you want to write a professional exam or a specialty exam, you must have a prior experience, like you must have a associate certification which is valid, or while if you're writing the specialty exam, there must be a professional certification which is valid. So this is mandatory to write the higher exam. But now AWS have removed all the constraints so that you can write any exam in AWS without any kind of pre-certification constraints. Okay. For example, if you want to write the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional exam, you can directly go for it without having any associate level certifications. But one thing you have to understand here is, if you want to go to this professional certification or specialty certification, AWS assumes that you have some basic knowledge on that platform, and that we will discuss in the coming slides. Okay, so in this associate level certification, we especially in this AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, we basically discuss about a lot of topics like just the compute services, like the EC2, ECS, those kind of things, or storage, the database, the VPC. We'll cover almost all of the services in a medium level. And still, when you go to the professional certification, the same topics you will study a bit in more depth. For example, if you go to this AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, you will actually study about the some advanced things. Like for example, you study S3, and in that topic we will study what all things we can do to improve the security, improve the features, to configure a higher end processor, those kind of things. And currently we are actually planning to discuss about the AWS Certified Security Specialty Certification. And as I said, it doesn't assume any kind of previous certifications required for writing the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam. Okay, previously you must have a professional certification valid, but now it is not like that. You can directly go to AWS Certified Security Specialty exam. But I'll tell you what all things you have to keep in mind before actually going to write this AWS Certified Security Specialty. So, do you have any doubts in this certification things, team, till now? I'll just go in detail about the AWS Certified Security Specialty. Before that, do you have any doubts in the certification constraints or something like that? If you have any doubts, please put in chat box, or you can unmute and ask. Great. Okay. So, we'll go to the AWS Certified Security Specialty certification. Yeah. So this is the exam document. This is the exam study guide of the AWS Certified Security Specialty. And I assume you have some basic knowledge in AWS Security Specialty, like AWS Certified Solutions Associate level. For writing this AWS Certified Security Specialty exam, yeah, one second. Yeah, I'll discuss that, Roshan. I'll discuss that. Yeah. So for writing the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam, we have the cost is like it is $300. It is $300 the cost. So plus the exam time is 170 minutes, and you can write the exam through any AWS authorized exam centers. And we have multiple choice, multiple answer exam like the all other AWS certifications. And see, while writing, before, if you are planning to prepare for this AWS Certified Security Specialty, before doing that, before starting that particular thing, we have to have a very basic, very thorough knowledge on the basics of AWS, like those services which we use commonly in AWS, which is called as EC2, S3, IAM, VPC, those kind of things you must have, or a bit more topics we have. So for you must have a very basic knowledge or a very strong knowledge on these kind of topics. And it actually, in the exam time, AWS assumes you have minimum 5 years of experience, IT security experience, and you must have at least 2 years of hands-on experience in securing AWS workloads. But basically, it is not necessary, but still, it will be good if you have this recommended AWS knowledge, but that is not mandatory. Okay. So before planning to write this exam, you must have prepare for this exam. You must have a very good knowledge in the AWS Certified Associate level exam. Any of the AWS Certified Associate level exams, preferably AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Okay. So as I told you, this exam is actually introduced in 2018, and they have revised a lot. And now it is the latest version, which is the SCS C01. That is exam code, and there is no prerequisite for this exam, as I said before. So it validates the examiner's ability to demonstrate the data classifications, data protection mechanisms, encryption, secure protocol management, security features, all those kind of things. Okay, I'll just discuss all in detail now. So give me a second. Yeah, I'll just open this. So in this exam, basically what we plan is, basically we have 5 domains in the exam. So you have measuring for each domain. So this is the 5 domains. Hope you can see my PDF file. Give me a second. I just got a message. Yeah, the difference between the Solutions Architect Associate certification, the Developer Associate is the job role. It's actually the job role. And to choose the right path for you, that we'll discuss in personal. I think you can just keep in touch with me. I'll just discuss that in personal. But now actually we'll discuss more on this AWS Security Specialty. thing. So basically, we have total 5 domains in this AWS Certified Security Specialty exam. The first one is incident response, which covers the 12% of the exam. The next is logging and monitoring, which covers 20%. Infrastructure security, that can be 26% for the exam. Identity and access management is 20%, and data protection is 22%. So you can expect a lot of questions from this exam. Actually the security specialty. The advantage of this exam is basically when I wrote my professional exam, when I wrote my AWS Certified Solutions Architect professional exam, I felt it was too complicated. Why? Because you study a lot of things you have to study. You cannot skip a word. You can get questions from anywhere. But at the same time, if you prepare for this AWS Certified Security Specialty, one advantage I felt is you have to focus on some specific areas. That is what we require for this exam. You have to focus on some topics, some headlines, some words, some standards, those kind of things you have to understand. Just that's enough for passing the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam. But to do the exam well, what you have to have a thorough understanding of these concepts. And it is not actually a very vast. It's topics are very less topics we have, but still, this topics which we have for this exam, they can ask questions from any side, like scenario-based questions. It can be a bit confusing and those kind of things. Okay, I'll just have a discussion on that. So till now, any doubts, team? Do you have doubts, team, till now? Great. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So the first thing which we will discuss before going to this AWS Security Specialty domains is actually the shared responsibility model. So as I told you, in AWS or in any other platform, one thing you have to keep in mind is we have a shared responsibility model. See, as you know, when we move to this cloud, when we move to a cloud platform, especially a public cloud or private cloud, and on off-premises private cloud, the responsibility is not completely for the user or for the provider. It's actually a shared responsibility. The responsibility is completely shared. That means that the customer is having a series of responsibilities for the infrastructure, and the provider is also having the same. Okay, that's what we call as a shared responsibility model. And according to the type of service you use, that can be varying. Okay, so yes, and out, team. Yeah. Okay. So basically, I'm getting some noise. Actually, can you please put your mic on mute? Okay. So basically, for example, when we take the case of EC2, the responsibility is actually shared. That means that, for example, when we take EC2, the hardware, the virtualization, the underlying storage, the compute, and everything is managed by the cloud provider. At the same time, from the operating system to the operating system updates, patching, maintenance, application, and everything from there is the responsibility of the customer. The certification code for AWS Certified Security Specialist SESC01. Okay. Yeah, got it. Fine. So there is a shared responsibility in between the AWS customers and the provider. Okay, that's it. So as you know, the responsibility of the cloud provider, which includes the infrastructure, that includes the region, zones, edge locations, etc., and their services or their devices and all those, and the infrastructure, their physical ventilation, air conditioning, electricity, and those kind of things in their premises. Okay, but at the same time, the client is at most responsible for managing the operating system, the firewall, all those kind of things in an IaaS service, and this can vary completely according to the type of the service. Okay, so before preparing for this exam, I assume you have very good knowledge in EC2, IAM, S3, VPC, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and those kind of things. Okay. That's it. So we'll go to the domain one. As I told you, we have some 5 domains in this. Each domain is having some particular percentage, like as I told you, domain one 12%, second one 20, percentage, like that. You have a total 5 domains, and these are the key topics you have to focus. These are the key topics you have to focus while preparing for this exam. Okay, this is my idea. These are the key topics which we have to focus while planning for this exam. That's why, because you can expect at least some 90% questions from these topics. Okay, so we'll go to the first one. The first one is the domain one, which is called as incident response. The first domain which we focus for this AWS Certified Security Specialty exam is what we call as the incident response. So can anybody tell me what is an incident? Can anyone tell me what is an incident?
Any business interruption that could be raised as an incident.
Yes, any business incidents which can be unplanned or whatever it is, which interrupts our business, our IT services, or cause some degradation, can be said as an incident. So so if an incident is happening, thus you must have a proper incident response plan. Incident response plan is what the way your business or user responds to the incident. So our incident response plan is very critical in managing the cloud platform, especially in this. See, even if you go to AWS cloud or your on-premise infrastructure, this incidents can occur. This kind of issues can happen. Attacks can happen. So you must have a proper plan to manage all these kind of things. So in this domain, which is called as domain one, what we will do is, in this domain we are actually focusing on how we can actually design a proper incident response, and if an incident occurs, how we can respond to it or how we can manage it, and what things we can put your mics on mute. Yeah, thank you. So in this, we'll study about how we will actually manage if an incident happens, or what are our disaster recovery plans, and how to do penetration testing in AWS. Those kind of things we are actually discussing on this domain. So for appearing for the questions in this domain, you have to understand a lot of factors. The first one you have to understand is the reasons for the common attacks in the security, which is actually same as your on-premise infrastructure. For example, if you have an EC2 instance, you must know how to secure the operating system, because it is your responsibility. Right? For example, if you have an EC2 instance in your premises or in your AWS cloud platform, in AWS cloud platform, you must know how that particular instance must be secured, like hardened. For example, updating the instance properly, reducing the attack surface, stopping the unwanted ports, securing the provide an IDS API solution. Like that, you must know the common attack reasons, and you must know what all things you have to do to mitigate them. Okay, and the second thing you have to do for this thing is, you must know how to implement a proper incident response plan. And also the next one is very critical actually, which is called as the AWS abuse notice. I will discuss more on that, but still, if you get a notice from suddenly one day, if you get a notice from AWS that so we have a we have an incident occurred from your server, we had an attack, or for example your servers are compromised or something like that. If you get an abuse notice from AWS, how do you respond to that abuse notice? That is what we have to understand. Okay, so I'll discuss that in a few minutes. So the first one is incident response, how to properly plan your incident response, and how to deal with an abuse notice. For example, if AWS sends you an abuse notice and if you don't respond to it, that means that within no time your account can be having some problem. For example, if you don't respond to an abuse notice, it can lead to your account suspension and all. Okay. And the next thing is you must know how to prevent your account from being compromised. How to prevent your account from being compromised, and what are the services which helps us to manage, or how help us to manage this kind of incidents, and to and what if an incident occurs and if a disaster occurs, and how can we get back to an immediately to work and reduce the downtime. That is what we call as a disaster recovery. And at last we'll discuss about the penetration testing, how to do penetration testing on an AWS cloud platform. Okay, so the first one you have to know is the AWS abuse notice. This is the you can get at least one question from this definitely in the exam, because for the last three exams also the candidates got this AWS question from this AWS abuse notice. Okay, so I'll just share. Hope you can see my browser. If you can't see my browser, please type it in the chat box. So AWS abuse notice means, see this. Team, can you see my browser? Great. Yeah, give me a second. See, if you receive an abuse report from AWS about your resources, these are the things you have to understand. For example, if there is any compromised instances, or if there is any compromised like database, or any compromised activities in your AWS account, can lead to an abuse report. And basically this abuse report is because some other customers are complaining about your account. That also can happen. For example, if a hacker is using your EC2 instance to attack, or to push data packets or attack some other accounts, they can file an abuse notice. So that also AWS will send you a mail on that. Okay, so when you receive an abuse notice from AWS, these are the factors you have to consider. The first one is review the abuse notice to see what content or activity was reported. That means that when you for example, when AWS sends you an abuse report and mentioning that our instance with this ID, or from this IP they are getting malicious traffic or something like that, first of all you have to go through the report and understand what exactly is happening, which instance or what exactly is happening, the problem, and immediately do the corrective measures. Like for example, if they are saying that okay, if your instance, this particular instance is compromised, you have to immediately fix that issue. Like you can change security groups, you can just verify the instance, how what exactly happened when the instance compromised, and you can verify the log files. But anyway, you have to verify what exactly happened, and you have to report and you have to reply to AWS and explain what all measures you have took to prevent the abusive activity. Okay, these are things which is very important. Because why? Because dealing with an abuse notice is very important in a production environment. Why? Because when some incident happens, for example, when somebody is attacked from your account, for example, if I have an EC2 account and some other AWS customers are getting some very malicious traffic or something else from my account or my particular instance, AWS will send you this abuse notice, and you have to thoroughly go through this abuse notice. And if you ignore that, that can cause some serious problem. If you don't respond to your AWS abuse notice within 24 hours, according to the severity of that particular abuse, AWS may block your resources or can lead to account suspension. Okay, for production accounts that can lead to serious trouble. So always make sure you properly respond to the AWS abuse notice. And team, 1 second, I'll just show you an example for an abuse notice. Give me a second, I'll just show you an example for an AWS abuse notice. One second, team. See, this is an example for this is a sample example of AWS abuse notice. See this. Hello user, we have detected that your instance have been behaving in the following way that it is against our AWS customer agreement. So your instance which is having a value here, it is actually masked. That particular value is actually doing a port scanning on other instances. So some customers have actually uh, notified Amazon about this, that attack is occurring from your EC2 instance. So if you get a message like this, the first thing you have to do is to do the corrective measures, like what exactly caused the issue. Immediately fix that. Isolate the instance. You have a lot of things to do while doing it. And the second thing is you have to reply to that abuse report within 24 hours, and you have to explain them what all things you have done to prevent the abusive activity or from recurring it in the future. Okay. So this you have to understand in depth when you learn about the domain one, which is the incident response. The second one you have to understand is the how to prevent this compromise, how to prevent this abuse, or how to prevent a compromise. See, what are the things we can do? What are the things we can do in an AWS account to prevent being compromised? Can anyone give me some suggestions? What are the things we can do to prevent compromises in our AWS account? Some security measures. I'm not asking based on the operating system, like updating the operating system, those kind of things. I'm not asking about that in the AWS. Yeah. Okay, I got a message. Yeah, tied in the security groups, of course. IDS. You can implement an IDS solution which is available from the AWS marketplace. Tied in the security groups, block unnecessary posts. Then yeah, that's great. Use HTTPS, use identity access management. Don't open port 22. It's actually according to the requirement we can customize. Okay, so we have a lot of things we can do. For example, we can always make sure we don't log into the root account. We have to secure the root account and keep it away. Enable multi-factor authentication. Use IAM users. Use exactly the permissions you actually a user requires, and never always use roles in your EC2 account. See, I'll just give an example for that. See, basically, what happens is the first thing which when I discuss about AWS security, the first thing I will tell people is never trust your users. Never trust the users. I'll tell you why. Why? Because, for example, let us take a scenario. Give me a second. So, assume that I have an EC2 instance here. This is my EC2 instance. Assume that this is my EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance, and we are actually having an S3 bucket here. Assume that I am having a S3 bucket. Assume that this is a S3 bucket. I don't have the proper logos, that's why I take this S3. Okay, how can an EC2 instance access an S3 bucket? Can anyone say how we can access? How an EC2 instance can access an S3 bucket? Service role, then that's the only way. Role is the only way to access an S3 bucket. Actually, we can do it in two ways. Maybe what we can do is we can actually log into the EC2. Yeah, that's it. We actually log into the EC2 instance. We can put the access key and secret key. Yeah, that's all. Endpoint can also work. So we can actually put the access key and secret key, and using that access key and secret key from the EC2 instance, we can access the S3 bucket. The second thing is we can actually use something called as roles. So what is a role? A role means like something. For example, if your EC2 instance want to access the S3 bucket, your EC2 instance can assume the role to get a permission to access the particular S3 bucket. Okay, so if I use a username and password or access key and secret key instead of roles, what happens is that can be shared, right? For example, if I have an access key and sorry team, I have some message here. Sorry. Yeah. So if I have some access key and secret key, what happens is there is a chance that the user can share the access key and secret key with somebody else. So if we use access key and secret key, that is not a secure practice. So always use roles instead of access key and secret key while accessing these kind of things. Doing the, okay. For example, if I want to want an EC2 instance to access an S3 bucket, I can create a role in Amazon IAM to allow the EC2 instance to access the S3 bucket, and you can attach the role to the EC2 instance and thereby giving the particular instance permission to access the S3 bucket. So it can be more secure than giving the access key and secret key. So that is one thing. The next thing is you have to make sure you rotate your credentials regularly. You have to rotate your credentials regularly. And the next point is very critical, which means that you don't share, you never share your PII. What is PII? Personally identifiable information. Never share PI, any personally identified information or those kind of things in any platform. That can include S3 buckets, like some log files or GitHub or anywhere. Never share any personally identified information or those kind of things in any platform, even if it is S3 or even if it is a log files, even if it is in any third-party application or GitHub or whatever it is. Okay. So never share, don't share any kind of personal information. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, VPC endpoints can be used. Endpoint is actually no, it is actually inbound access. What we are talking about is the authorization. It is not about the local connectivity. That's why we don't discuss the endpoint. Yeah. Yeah, to say create separate roles. Exactly. No, you can create a role and you don't have to create the role for a particular user. You can actually use the role to attach to an EC2 instance, and that particular instance will only get that permission to access the S3 bucket. That we can do. Okay. Great. And the next thing you have to do is you can use, for example, to avoid sharing your personal, or to make sure you don't share any kind of personal information or act like access keys, secret keys, username, password, etc. on this S3, GitHub, etc. We have a lot of tools there for that, like Git secrets or like AWS Macie. A lot of things are there to prevent us from actually putting this kind of personally identifiable information or any other sensitive information on the public. Okay. And the next thing which we have to, yeah, I got a message, 1 second. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So the next thing which we have discussed is what you call as a guard duty. So guard duty is what you call as a threat intelligence service. It's actually a threat intelligence service. It's actually, if you want, you can enable guard duty on your account. It's actually free. It is available in free trial for 1 month. You can actually use it free trial for 1 month. And this guard duty is a threat intelligence service which has, for example, it will, by enabling guard duty, it will actually put events. The lesser number of events, this means it is more secure. That means that, for example, the events which are included is CloudTrail events, VPC flow logs, DNS logs, etc. The guard duty will actually scan your services and give you reports or give you events based on the activities. So we will know what exactly is happening, what all things we have to do to make it secure. Okay. So the next one is penetration testing. So what is penetration testing? Can anyone say what is penetration testing? What is penetration testing?
To find exploit vulnerabilities and exploit them.
Yeah, to find the vulnerability and to exploit. Okay, then anything more? Find the vulnerability. Okay, so what are the things? What are the things you will do before you do a penetration testing on a production environment? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you'll do information gathering, recognize. Yeah, we will do vulnerability scanning, lot of things. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So previously, if you want to do penetration testing on AWS, if you want to do penetration testing on AWS, you have to notify Amazon regarding that. Previously, if you want to do penetration testing on AWS, you have to notify AWS regarding that, and according to the reply from the Amazon only, you can do this penetration testing. But now there is no constraints like that. As you can see here, you can carry out penetration testing against resources on your AWS account as per the policies and guidelines at the penetration testing window. You don't need approval from AWS to run the penetration testing against resources on your AWS account. Okay. Previously, if you want to do penetration testing, you have to actually get an approval. Okay. You have to get a lot of approval from Amazon, like a lot of requests were there. But now, to do penetration testing, there is no constraints. You don't need any prior approval from Amazon for doing penetration testing. You can do it anytime you want for your resources, only on your AWS account. Okay. But still, you have some constraints. That means that, for example, if you want to do penetration testing, I'll just show you a picture on that. Yeah. See, these are the things you have to keep in mind. See, effective immediately, AWS customers are welcome to carry out security assessments. I'm getting noise. God. Yeah, I am sorry. AWS customers are welcome to carry out security assessments or penetration testing against their AWS infrastructure without prior approval for 8 services. So for these 8 services, for these services, you can do penetration testing anytime you want without any prior approval. But one thing you have to keep in mind is you have some restrictions. For example, for EC2 instances, you can do penetration testing. For a specific type of instance, you cannot do that. That I'll show you that. Okay. So before doing the penetration testing, I prefer you go through this because this is very important. You're welcome to conduct the security assessments against AWS resources that you own if they make us for the list of services below. Okay. So currently, as for now, AWS is supporting this much services for penetration testing. But these are the prohibited activities. These are the prohibited activities. That means that, see, for example, like DNS zone walking, DDoS attack, all these kind of things like port flooding, protocol flooding, request flooding, those kind of attacks are actually prohibited. Okay. So I'll just give you an example. Last time I got one trouble. I'll just give you an example. So currently, last time what happened is I have enabled this guard duty and WAF and everything on my customer's AWS account. And what happened was that day, actually, a lot of customers from that company, almost some 1,000+ people are there. Yeah, I think somebody's video is on. If there is, please turn it off. Actually, let me check 1 second. Yeah, Raj is, I think. Yeah. Give me a second, team. I'll just. Hope it's okay. Yeah, okay. Fine. So, for example, I got a issue like, for example, so from approximately 1,000 students were accessing a particular website which was working on AWS. So what happened was all of these requests were coming from a particular for some particular number of IPs, and what happened was the AWS actually understood it as a DDoS attack. Because why? Because a lot of people from different countries are accessing the same website in your AWS infrastructure. So to avoid that, in guard duty and all, you can actually whitelist some IP addresses. That's also possible. So basically, when you do penetration testing, these are the activities which must be avoided. Okay, these are the activities which must be avoided, and you are supposed to do penetration testing only on your specific accounts, and you don't have to have any kind of prior approvals. Okay, and while you do penetration testing as well, if you receive any abuse notice, you have to respond to that notification, including the activities which you have done, and tell them what all measures you have took for that. Okay, and for example, I'll give you an example. For example, I told you EC2 can be tested for this any vulnerabilities. It is the list of permitted services. But the problem is when you do EC2, they don't recommend using this type of EC2 instances for penetration testing. Why? Because these are actually not having much configuration, and these are a lot of people are using this. So that's why they don't want you to do penetration testing on this kind of instances. And also they prefer before doing the penetration testing, you must always verify your IP address. That can happen. This is actually the most common reason for this like abuse report. Why? Because see, basically, if you have an instance, if you have an instance, yeah, sure. 1 second, I'll just disable the video of that person. 1 second. Give me a second, Tim. Give me a second. Now it's fine.
No.
Still. Oh my God.
Yes. Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So before testing on AWS, you have to verify your IP address. Why? Because, for example, the IP address actually keep on changing, right? When you do this on AWS, the IP address keep on changing, right? For example, currently you have an IP address and you given to your testing team, your VAPT team, and they are actually doing the penetration testing. So what happens is suddenly if the IP changes, this attack can happen for some other people. So always make sure the current ownership of the IP address before doing penetration testing. This is a very important point. Okay, so penetration testing, you must have the basics of penetration testing. You must have very good knowledge while doing this incident response domain. So these are the areas you have to focus. That is, you have to understand what is guard duty. You have to understand what is the best practices for AWS to harden the infrastructure. The second one is you must know how to manage the incident, how to do incident response, how to act for an incident. And definitely there is no predefined rule for this incident response. You have to define the rule as per your company scenario. And how to deal with an AWS abuse notice. And if a disaster happens, what all things you can do to recover from that disaster, and how to do this penetration testing and other security activities on AWS. These are the factors you have to learn or you have to understand in the domain 1. Team, do you have doubts till now? Domain 1, any doubts?
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, others, any doubts? Any doubts, team? Anything?
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, great. Okay, fine, sure. Okay, so this is actually domain 1, and we have to study a lot of things in this. It's actually see, when you write the exam, when I some years back when I wrote the exams, I actually thought like the security exam is too complicated. But if you know what exactly you have to focus on, like for example, when you get a question from in this exam, these questions are a bit tricky. That's the only part. You don't have to learn much. Like you don't have to learn like you did learn for the AWS professional exam. It is not like that. But still, for this exam, the idea is what all things you learn in what all things you have to it's actually a real-time thing. For example, if an incident happens, what is the best practice to do this? What is the best practice to do that? Likewise, you have to know what is the best practices, what are things you have to do. That's enough for the exam. And AWS is providing a lot of white papers for having this. I'll just show you one example. So see this, you can just go through this kind of white papers, and this is having a lot of things. See this, if what happens when an incident happens, and everything is there. Okay, you can just go through this. Okay, you can just Google it. It is there actually. The white paper name is Introduction to AWS Security Processes. Okay, fine. Okay, the next one which we are going to discuss, the next thing which we are going to discuss is actually, yeah, I just got one Macie here. Wait, please wait. Yeah, disaster recovery. Yeah, I'll just explain that. Okay. See, when I say about disaster recovery, it's actually very critical. That's why, because this domain, I got one question from disaster recovery last time. Why? Because when you have a disaster, you must completely, or you must be able to mitigate the issue, and you must be able to uh, make the environment or make the scenario work back to normal. So first of all, you have to follow a lot of standards. I'll just show an example here. Disaster. Yeah. AWS itself actually defined a lot of standards to do that, but still, let me see if it is. I just saw it somewhere else here. You don't have permission. Yeah, no problem. I'll just share it later onwards. No problem. Okay. So when you have a disaster, I'll just give you give you a sample example. For example, if you have an HTTP instance, for example, if you have an attack in your HTTP instance, the first thing you can do is that you can isolate the instance to another security group. It's actually predefined, which is actually secure, and which is not having any connection to the outside world. Like this, you have to follow a lot of DR standards, which is designed by Amazon and which suits your infrastructure. So that is what we study in this disaster recovery. Okay, and we can use a lot of services for that, like VPC, AWS security groups, sort of things. Clear? Fine. So the next one which we study is the domain 2, which is the logging and monitoring. See, when we study this thing, when we study this domain 2, at least you can expect the most important part for this exam is actually, or one of the most important part for this exam is actually the domain 2, which is the logging and monitoring. Because you can get a lot of questions from this domain. Also, it can be a bit confusing. It's why? Because when the security is concerned, the most important factor which we can do is the most important factor which we have to consider is about the monitoring. So definitely we know that the service which we use for monitoring our AWS infrastructure, basically the common service which we use for monitoring our AWS infrastructure is the CloudWatch. Yeah, that that we can discuss with the team again. I'm not sure about that. We can just discuss about the team. Okay. So in this domain 2, actually you have to understand a few services like AWS Inspector, AWS Web Application Firewall, the CloudWatch, the monitoring tool, CloudTrail, AWS Macie, AWS Config, and VPC flow logs. These are things you have to understand this domain. And definitely you will get some at least 5+ questions from this for sure. Why? Because this can be a critical part of the exam. Because when I wrote the exam, I got some 4 questions from this domain, and last time also my students also got like that. So what is this AWS Inspector? Can anyone say what is AWS Inspector? Have you gone through that in your associate level exam? Currently we have included it. No, just both are same actually. It's my mistake. Yeah, I'll explain that. I'll explain that. AWS Inspector, yeah, AWS Inspector is a service, but I'll just show you that, and then I'll explain. That will be easy. AWS Inspector. See, AWS Inspector is like your Nessus. Have you heard of Nessus tool? It's a vulnerability analysis tool actually. Yeah, it's a DA tool. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Actually, this tool is like Nessus. We have a lot of tools like Nessus, Nexpose, those things like that, right? This inspector is also a tool which is commonly used in the industry, but still it is not exactly the level of Nessus and all, but still it is actually improving every day. So this AWS Inspector is a automatic security assessment service that helps you to improve the security and compliance of the applications deployed on AWS. I'll just give an example. For example, if you have an EC2 instance, I'm currently having an EC2 instance, and if I enable this AWS Inspector agent, or if I install the AWS Inspector agent on that particular instance, and if I connect to my AWS account, what happens is this AWS Inspector will actually scan for a lot of factors in my account, which includes the vulnerable software versions, unauthorized logins, missing updates, those kind of things. It will scan and send it to us. And also, they will actually check for the remote login, for example, remote root logins, those kind of things. They will verify. Okay, so AWS Inspector will help you. And one thing you have to keep in mind: AWS will not actually sneak peek into your AWS EC2 instance. So what you have to do is, if you want AWS Inspector to scan your EC2 instance, you have to install the Inspector agent. See, Amazon Inspector Security Assessment helps you to check for the unintended network accessibility of your Amazon EC2 instances, and for vulnerable and what all things are vulnerable on that EC2 instance. And we have a lot of predefined rules for this AWS Inspector. Like it is commonly it is compared with the National Vulnerability Database by NIST. Okay. So clear, team? Yeah. So AWS Inspector is an automatic security assessment tool, and AWS Inspector on the other side, AWS Guard Duty on the other side, I'll just show you that. It is a threat detection service. It is a threat detection service. It is different actually. It is actually used to monitor the malicious activities in your AWS account. That means this AWS Inspector, as I said, this AWS Inspector is like your Nessus. It's a scanning tool which helps us to, for example, if you're using a specific version of an application or something like some specific things like that, you can use this AWS Inspector to identify those particular vulnerabilities, and you can actually fix that. But AWS Guard Duty is actually a threat intelligence thing. It's actually working different levels. Yeah, it prevents threats, and actually it gives you outline. Yeah.
Krish, this AWS Guard, is it something like IDS and IPS in the cloud world?
Yeah, it can be. You can say it like an IDS and IPS, but it is not exactly like that. See this. This is an example. See, when you do this Guard Duty, what happens is you can enable Guard Duty on your account, and it is not free. It is available free test. It will verify your CloudTrail logs, VPC. What is a VPC flow log? VPC flow log means it will log the traffic which is coming and going from your VPC. So VPC flow logs, DNS logs, and actually designs it actually detects the threats which can possibly occur by comparing it with the third-party intelligence partners, and it can show you a window to take action. For example, I'll just give an example. The port number 22 is open, or port number 20 is open. So it will actually verify it and actually show it to you and tell you that the port is open. This can have some serious trouble to you later. So make sure you close that. Or like, and you're getting some traffic continuously from this particular IP, verify it. Those kind of things you will get. Okay. And you can actually review this detailed findings in the console and integrate them into various event management things. Okay.
It is more of a CM solution in cloud.
Exactly. Okay. So inspector is actually like a resist to nest and expose tools. It's actually the security assessment service, but this is not like that. This is actually the workload and the threat detection. It's actually a threat detection service. It's actually different. Okay, fine. So it's actually easy. I can only I can just make you understand with the help of this some lab sessions with this. But currently we don't have much time. That's why we don't cover that. You will understand this thoroughly once you do the lab sessions. Okay. And basically, this AWS inspector is actually designed to protect against the OWASP top 10 standards and those kind of things. Those OWASP top 10 security issues and those kind of things are actually basically scanned by this. Okay, also can be verified. Yeah, that's it. So the next one which we are going to study is the AWS WAF. You know what is WAF, right? WAF stands for Web Application Firewall. The WAF is a level 7 firewall. Basically, what we deal with is the L3 and L4 firewalls, which is actually the port scanning, IP address scanning and all. But WAF is a web application firewall. It's an Amazon service. This is an application firewall. This is an application firewall. Okay. The advantages, this can help you scan for a lot of threats like malicious activities, lot of threats and all, and it can provide you with the intelligent protection. WAF is very important. WAF, you can expect at least one question from WAF and Shield in AWS Security Specialty exam. And the next thing which we will study is the CloudWatch. CloudWatch means, as I told you, CloudWatch is a completely monitoring tool. This CloudWatch is very critical for the exam. As I told you, CloudWatch is one of the main topic. See, in CloudWatch, these are things you have to focus on. You have to focus on the logs and events. So you must know how to verify, how to go through the CloudWatch logs, and you must know how to configure that. If an event occurs, you must know how to get notified, how to trigger some actions. You can configure CloudWatch to create alarms and trigger events for some actions which can happen in your AWS account. And the next one is CloudTrail. In this CloudTrail, this is actually there in the AWS associate level exam, but still here you must know to verify the log file, because you will get some scenario questions, or you will get a message, or they will share your log file and they want you to verify what exactly is there in the log file. So CloudTrail is something which is very important for the exam. It's why? Because using this CloudTrail, you will be able to log each and every activities in your AWS account. And definitely one more thing we will study in this, the one extra thing we will study in this course in CloudTrail is, see, for example, I told you, you know that you can save the CloudTrail log files in S3, right? You can save the CloudTrail log files you can push the CloudTrail logs to S3 as well. It's no problem. You can actually push the CloudTrail logs into S3. But the problem is, when you push CloudTrail logs into S3, there is a chance that some people can modify that particular log files, right? If they have permission, they can modify the log files, right? For example, if I configure CloudTrail to verify the malicious activities or some activities, and what happened is those particular activities are actually recorded as logs. If the user who done that activity, for example, if I am a user and I try to log in with some other credentials, or if I try to access some other service which I don't have permission, CloudTrail will log that. And what happens is, if the CloudTrail logs that, if the person is having permission to access S3, he can directly go to S3 and delete that particular log file, right? To avoid that, we have to enable something called as log file integrity validation. You can enable something called as log file integrity validation. And of course, the second thing you can do is that you can encrypt the CloudTrail logs with the KMS. So what is KMS? Have anybody heard of KMS? KMS? What is KMS thing?
No.
Yeah, it's actually I just explained that in the last topic. It's a very critical part in our syllabus. It's actually the key management service. I'll tell you what it is. So it's always a good practice to enable CloudTrail log file integrated validation. See, what happens is when you push your CloudTrail logs to Amazon S3, that logs can be accessed by all the people who are having permission to the S3 bucket, right? So what happens is, if I am doing something wrong, if I done something wrong, and if I go to the S3 bucket and delete it, if I go to the S3 bucket and delete it, so I cannot identify that particular activity. To avoid that, this kind of non-repudiation, to ensure this non-repudiation, what we will do is we will enable something called as log file integrity validation. So if I enable log file integrity validation, what happens is, if some person deletes a log file, or if a person messes up with the log file, you will be able to know what exactly or that the incident happened. Okay, and the next thing you have to understand this CloudTrail is you must understand always encrypt your logs. That's very important. Always encrypt your logs. The most secure way you can encrypt your logs in Amazon S3 is actually using the most secure and the cost efficient way to meet the compliance requirements, and all that in S3 is what you call as KMS, Key Management Service. That I'll explain in the coming domain actually. Okay, so the next one which we have to study is the AWS config. AWS config, then I'll explain Macie. So AWS config is actually a newer service, but just after its arrival, it becomes a very, very critical use service. Why? Because this service is serving a lot of functions. It enables the or it evaluates, it assesses and audits your AWS cloud infrastructure, and you can review the changes, review the configurations and relationships between the AWS resources. I'll just give an example. See, what is the difference between CloudTrail and this config? The difference is, yes, are you able to hear me, team? Yes, great.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the difference between this AWS CloudTrail and config is, AWS config will tell you what exactly is changed, what is changed. For example, a user is performing an action. For example, you have a particular instance created or something. AWS config will let you know, AWS config reports will let you know what happened in your AWS infrastructure. But AWS CloudTrail, what it will do is, it will tell you who made the changes, when the change happened, and in which location the change occurred. Okay, I'll just give an example. For example, currently today actually you have a production server running and everything is working fine, and suddenly tomorrow morning when you go to your office, you see that the server is having some problem. So till yesterday evening the server was running fine. Just suddenly you just reached today morning and you found out that the server is not running or not working properly. There is some other problem. So to understand exactly what happened, you can use a service called as config. That is what I told you. AWS config helps you to understand what has changed. What changed. For example, yesterday I changed the security group of the instances, or if I changed some permission, something I changed. So because of the change that was unavailable. So this AWS config will help you understand. Yeah, it will actually give you a timeline. It is not a configuration comparison. It will give you a timeline. So from this point, okay, after this activity happened. So after this activity, another activity happened. It will give you a timeline. So it will let you know. Log file means when it happens and who made the changes. Here actually we will know what exactly changed. For example, currently the state is like this. The next time the state changed to a particular other thing. So what changed? What exactly is changed? That's what you call as the config. But in CloudTrail is actually basically focusing on logs, right? CloudTrail, what happens is, it will tell you who made the changes, which user made the changes, when the change happened, in which service or which location. This is the difference. So this AWS config is a newer service. It's actually it's actually very much important in the exam perspective. Okay. That's it. So the next one which we'll study is called as AWS Macie. What is AWS Macie? AWS Macie is one of the very important services which currently came to the exam. For the last exam, they had one question from that. Why? Because the service is very useful. It uses machine. I just show you a demo on that. Take some time. I just AWS Macie. Yeah. AWS Macie service, which is based on machine learning. I'll just give an example. See, you have hundreds of buckets in your AWS account. For example, usually in a company, you may have multiple AWS accounts, and in each AWS accounts, you have a lot of S3 buckets, lot of instances like that. So what happens is, when you enable, sometimes your developers, like for example, if you have a development team or some other team, what happens is, they may accidentally share your credentials like your access key, secret key, your username, your passwords, email ID and passwords, some other credentials, server credentials, those kind of things in this S3 bucket. So AWS Macie, what it helps us, it actually recognizes the sensitive events or sensitive data which is stored on your AWS account, which includes the personal PII information, etc. For example, if I enable AWS Macie, what happens is, if I put accidentally, if I put the access key or secret key in my AWS account, in my S3 bucket, or something happens, Macie will alert you about that particular activity to avoid making it public. See this? It's a security service that uses machine learning to automatically discover, classify, and yeah, it's a kind of GDPR compliance. Exactly. It's for GDPR compliance. Exactly. So it automatically discovers, classifies, and protects the sensitive data in AWS. It recognizes the sensitive data like PII, such as personal PII or intellectual property, or provides you the dashboard and alerts that give you visibility into how the data is being accessed or moved. So that what happens is, for example, if something goes wrong, you can actually notify them about the incident happened, and they can actually remove that information. They're actually constantly improving the service, and it improved a lot than it started now. Okay, you can just try it out. It's free for 1 month. You can try it out. So the next thing which we have to discuss in this thing is VPC flow logs. What is VPC flow logs? Can somebody remember what is VPC flow logs? I'll just show you that. So what is a bastion host? Yeah, that's it. The logs, that is traffic coming to your VPC. See, VPC flow log is a feature which captures the information about the traffic which is going to and fro from the network instances in your VPC. The advantages, using this VPC flow logs, you can diagnose what all security rules are actually implemented, and what all traffics are monitoring your instance, lot of things. I'll just give you an example. You can do a lot of things, like for example, currently, for example, if I have a EC2 instance running, and which is having some application sites and all, what happens is, I'm getting a high amount of traffic. I'm getting a high amount of traffic for that instance in a particular time. For example, by night 12:30 or 1, I'm getting a huge traffic to my instance. I don't know what is happening. So I can enable this VPC flow logs to know from which IP or what exactly this traffic is coming. So I can just understand what is it a malicious thing or if it is normal, and to verify the future activities. VPC flow log helps you to capture the information about the IP traffic that is coming and going from the network interfaces in your VPC. And with the help of this flow log, you can know what all traffic is coming, and you can verify the traffic. Clear? So this is what you have to do in this domain 2. So in this domain 2 is very critical for the exam. Why? Because we can expect at least 4 questions from this. Why? Because this domain 2 is actually the core part. Like for example, when I teach this thing, I always say learn KMS, learn IAM. Like this domain 2, which includes this CloudWatch, CloudTrail and all, is very critical. Because why? Because this you can expect not only the questions, also the scenarios also you get in this AWS exam, this security specialty exam. If you won't do that, you must know this services very well. Clear? That's it. So Flowlogs is okay. So any doubts till now, team? Do you have a doubt till now? Anything?
No, Krish.
Yeah. Great. Others clear on this? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Great. Yes, I just got some message. 1 second. Fine. Great. So we will have 5 minutes break, and after that we'll continue. Okay, we'll have 5 minutes break.
Hello. Is it happening? Class is happening.
Yes. They are on a break actually. 2 minutes break. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Yep.
And team, you can ask your doubts. I'm here actually. You can ask your doubts.
Hello, everybody.
So we'll start, team. I think everyone arrived. We'll start. We'll continue. Okay. Is there a central location or like dashboard which we can manage security? Yeah, we have services like that. Yeah, we can manage. We have a security dashboard actually. Yeah. So we'll continue, team.
So Krish, I have a question,
Yeah.
small question.
Yeah, go on, please.
I mean, I have heard about CASB,
Yeah.
right? And I believe it is used for all cloud storage related applications. So, is it compatible with any cloud solutions or cloud providers? Or, I mean, does it work with AWS as well as Microsoft, if I talk about?
Of course, it will work with AWS and Microsoft.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. And
Hello.
yeah.
Okay,
The cost
I
of
have
certificate is $300. Okay. Yeah. Go on, please. Please go on.
I have one question about AWS certification and
Okay.
Microsoft certification.
Okay.
Yeah, Azure certification. What's the difference between this certification?
Which one?
My question is what is the difference between Azure certification and AWS certification?
Yeah, Azure certification is basically focusing on these kind of things like implementing, designing, and those kind of things in the Azure platform, Microsoft Azure platform. In this AWS, we focus on the AWS topics only, like AWS services, AWS, how we implement some security, those kind of things on AWS. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So team will continue actually. Yeah, the cost is actually including GST. It's $300. It's including GST. That's the cost. The difference between CCSP and AWS Security. See, in this AWS Security certification, as this is a webinar, I'm actually explaining things to you, right? But what we do is in this AWS Security certification, we are actually implementing the things. For example, if I say uh, enable logging, enable monitoring, enable VPC flow logs, enable security, enable config, you're doing all that in real time. But in CCSP, it is actually a different side. It's a management side. CCSP, what happens is it's actually a certification which is focusing on the cloud security governance, right? This is actually onto AWS only, how to implement something in AWS. Like for example, if you say you have to implement the cloud security best practices. So in this certification, I'll tell you how to do that. That's all. Can we see the different services that yeah, I did that we can share actually. But I'll share the document on that. Actually, there is no course specific for AWS pen testing. The security specialty is the only certification which is focusing on security. But if the pen testing is same even if you do it on cloud platform or whatever it is. But in this course, what we focus is not for pen testing only. This course we actually tell about the best security practices you can do to implement on AWS cloud platform, how to secure it, how to properly align it according to the standards, how to define the controls, those kind of things. Okay. The professional and the specialty exam is $300. Yeah, exactly. So that's it. So I'll just show an example for Amazon Macie. So in this Amazon Macie, you can just know that okay, currently we are actually discussing on domain 2. Still we are on domain 2 actually. So in this Macie, it is actually very simple. You can just go to the Amazon Macie console and you can click on get started. Your Macie is region specific. Currently it is available in North Virginia and Oregon only. It is actually getting available on other regions as well. Currently it is in 2 regions only. You can actually enable this thing here. You can click on enable. So the Macie is enabled. So what happens is if I go to an S3 bucket in this North Virginia region and if I put a file which is having some access key or secret access key, what happens is this Macie will get it notified, and from this Macie console you will see that that particular thing has happened, which is not based on the standards. There is a PII there in the S3 bucket. Okay, clear team? See this?
Yep.
You can see the alerts here, and this alerts is actually having the levels. Based on the levels, you can know the criticality of the alerts. Okay, see, I'll just click on S3 objects. See, if I have some S3 objects, I can see it here. So this much objects is actually this particular S3 bucket or this particular object in S3 is having a security flaw. You can see it here. See S3 objects by PII. You can just show all this, see all this here. See this? You can monitor S3, you can monitor cloud trail events, location, etc. Clear? That's it. So basically, I don't currently we are not doing it in real time. That's why we don't do this. I am just closing it. I don't want to get it built for me. Disable. Great, that's over. So that's it. That's what you call as Amazon Macie. And one more thing you have to focus on this domain too is that just got some. One more thing I got with this domain too is actually you must know the centralized logging. See that is also very important because you will get some questions from that as well. Why? Because when you do the, I told you this domain 2 is actually basically focusing on logging and monitoring, right? So this logging and monitoring, what happens is if you don't enable centralized logging and monitoring, what happens is if you definitely in a company you may have multiple AWS accounts for different purposes. For example, you may have a different account for development, you may have a different account for production, you may have a different account for testing, a lot of things like that. So to manage the log files it is always advised to manage the log files in a centralized manner. Then only you will be able to easily understand or manage what exactly is happening in your infrastructure. So make sure you enable centralized logging. Don't forget, you make sure you enable centralized logging. This is very important for the exam. Why? Because they will ask you questions regarding the centralized logging. But that is very critical. Don't forget. For example, we have published our private code which is having keys in public. No. Macie is actually not for those kind of things. That's a question actually. So Mona is asking that, for example, we have published our private code which is having keys in public GitHub. Will it notify us? No, it's not. It is actually used for monitoring those kind of things in S3 and all. So what happens? For example, if I am a developer and if I want to make sure no personal information, no PII or any sensitive data is pushed into my GitHub. So for that, the AWS team has developed a particular service or particular application which is called as Git Secrets. Using this Git Secrets, if once this Git Secrets enabled, if you try to push something onto your, just can you team please wait? I'll just show an example here. Let me see if I have that Git Secret installed. I'll just show you an example. Please wait, team. I'll just show you that. Team, are you able to see my virtual machine now? Are you able to see my virtual machine? Yeah, great. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's a very important question actually, because not only for the exam, also within production as well, this is very important. See, I want to make sure that no personal information, including anything, whatever it is not pushed into GitHub. So what I'll do is I will actually log into my. See, in this currently I have installed the Git Secrets. In this I have installed the Git Secrets. Let me see if I have messed up with it, otherwise it will work. Please wait. Yeah. Hope you can see my screen. I'll just zoom it a bit more. Yeah, see this. Currently what I'm going to do is I have a Git project which is running on this particular computer, which is running on my virtual machine, and I have installed Git Secrets on that. So if I try to use Git commit means I am trying to commit the actions to the GitHub. See what happens is, 1 second. Yeah, I'll just go to the Git folder. Sorry, so my mistake. Let me see where I am. Yeah. See, this is the thing. See, you can see it here. See, currently I am on my folder which is having JIT secrets enabled. This is my project folder which is called a JIT folder. In this JIT folder, I have my projects, and when one of my files, what happens is I have some credentials. I'll just show you an example here. So this is my folder which is having some files. Okay, let me see. See, these are the files. I'll just show you the file. Cat space credentials. I'll show you the file. See, this key is not valid now. So this access key and secret key is there, right? So I have a file in my JIT project folder which is having my credentials. So what happens is, if I try, it is having JIT secret. This folder is having JIT secrets enabled. So what happens is, if I try to do JIT commit, that means I am trying to push the contents to GitHub. What happens is, see this, it will throw you error. It matched one or more prohibited patterns. So that means that this will not allow me to push this particular file to GitHub. Why? Because this file is having prohibited contents. Is it clear, team? And out till now? This is very critical. So you can use JIT secrets to prevent that. Mona, is it clear? Great. Yeah. Like this, we can do security, like we can verify the security things on a lot of things. Like for example, in S3 bucket, if you want to verify nothing is going wrong in S3 bucket, you can use a service called as Macie. I told you, right? That's it. That's it. So that's it. So I hope you have an understanding about the domain 1 and domain 2. See, do you have any concerns till now? This is very important. Do you have any concerns? And of course, I'll tell you once again, this in this course, the advantages, you don't have much services to study in this course. Like if you go to the AWS professional certification, most people say that is the most the specialty is the most complicated thing, but it is not like that for my side. What I am saying is, in professional certification, you have to learn a lot of topics and you have to learn a lot of services. But in this AWS security specialty, you don't have to learn all the services, everything in that. But still, we are focusing only on security as well. We are actually focusing on some specific services which is having impact on our security. Okay, so you have to have a hands-on knowledge on those. See, in CCSP, you define the things, like you learn the best practices, you learn the concepts, those kind of things. But here, we will tell you how it works, how to implement that on a particular cloud provider or like AWS, how to implement disaster recovery, how to implement incident response, those kind of things. Clear? That's it. So this the domain 2 is very critical in about my knowledge. That's why, because from domain 2 you can expect at least 4+ questions. And the questions are very straight. It won't confuse you much, but still, provided you must have a thorough knowledge of what exactly each service do. You must clearly understand what is the difference between CloudTrail and CloudWatch, config and CloudTrail. You must have a clear understanding of exactly what is happening. And if you get an error, for example, in this exam as well, they will show you a lot of JSON code and all. So just verify that code line by line, step by step. You must understand exactly what exactly is the question, what is the problem in that particular code. Okay. And most people ask you, what they ask me is, when you go to this AWS Security Specialty exam, do you have to learn a lot of JSON, JavaScript object notation? So what I say is no. You don't have to learn a lot of like JSON and all. You just can. It is always better to have an understanding. Like you must know what exactly is there in the particular code. You must know what exactly is there, or what permissions you give for what person, what resource, everything. That we will just teach in that particular course. Okay. So that's it. The next thing which we'll discuss is actually, and one more thing I just forgot to discuss is the DDoS attack. I just told you, right? This that I will discuss in this domain 3. See, domain 3 is actually which covers the infrastructure security. Domain 3 covers the infrastructure security. So domain 3 means what in this thing what we learn is how to secure your network or cloud to secure your traffic on your network. How to make sure that the data is protected in the transit and those kind of things. Okay. So the first thing you have to understand in this domain 3 is the VPC. I suppose you have a very good knowledge in VPC, which is you must know how to create in this. For writing the exam for this domain, you must know what is a VPC. Okay, and in this VPC, what is default VPC, what is non-default VPC, and how to create a non-default VPC. You must know how to create a VPC with a public subnet, private subnet, or you must know the thorough concept how to implement that. And you must know what is the NAT instance, what is the NAT gateway, everything you must know. So, have you heard of NAT instance and NAT gateways? What is NAT instance and NAT gateway? Okay, I'll just show you a diagram here. I'll just show you that. 1 second. Yeah, we'll get a record session. Yeah, okay, record session on this. Okay, fine. So in this in this diagram you can see you have a VPC, and in this VPC you have two subnets, and the first subnet is public and the second subnet is private. So what I want to know is how do you access an instance in this private subnet? I want to access an instance in this private subnet. How to access the instance in this private subnet? Really, do you want to have NAT to instances private subnet? Using NAT, you cannot access the instance in the private subnet. Yeah, currently, see, here I have an instance in my private subnet. I have hosted a Windows or Linux machine in this private subnet. I want to know how to access that private instance from outside. Actually, what you can do is, it's always a good practice that you can configure something called as bastion host, or you can say gem servers in the public subnet. See, what basically you can do is, we will create a bastion host here. We will create a bastion host or gem server here. Yeah, one person actually told public IP. Yeah, definitely you can give a public IP, but the problem is, even if you give a public IP, there must be a route from the subnet to the internal gateway in this routing table. See this, you have instances here, but in the routing table of these instances, you don't have the route to the internal gateway. See this, in this public instance, you have a route. See this 0.0.0.0/0 IGW-ID. So you have a route to the internal gateway, but in this private subnet, you don't have a route. So if you want to access the instance, what you can do is, you can actually set up a gem server or a bastion host in this public subnet, and via that bastion host, you can access this private subnet inside this private provided in this private subnet. Clear? Is it clear, team? You can actually access this private instance via the bastion host which is there in the public subnet. Is it clear, team? Yeah, great. So that is mandatory. That is mandatory. You must know how to set up bastion host. But for writing this exam, bastion host is mandatory, and you must know the difference between NAT instance and NAT gateway. See, I'll just tell you that as well. Because why? Because it is very important. NAT is very important. See, okay. So I'll just explain the scenario. If you have doubts, please let me know. Just this is very important. See, currently what I am planning is, I have a gem server here. I'll just draw you that. See, I have a gem server here. This is my gem server. See, from this gem server, from the outside world, can you see my screen, team? I got some message that Srimada, you can just disconnect and reconnect if you have the same issue. Okay, so what I'm saying is, see, this is my instance. I am accessing the instance from the outside world. This is the Bastion host, and from the Bastion host, you can access the private subnet here. See, it's possible. So I'll just give you an example. Assume that this is my web server. This is my web server. This is my web server, which is having a site hosted, and this is my backend database server. This is my database server. So I don't want my database server to be accessed from the outside world. It's possible. So what we will do is we will actually configure this as a Bastion host, and from the Bastion host only you will be able to access your infrastructure of this database server. So, but the problem is, yeah, it is available again. Yeah, but the problem is, what if your database instance want to access outside? I'm not talking about you accessing your database instance that you can do via the Bastion host. What I'm asking is, what if the particular private instance, the private subnet, want to access the outside world or access the internet? For example, the database need to be updated, the server need to be updated, a lot of things are there, right? So for that, you have to update, you must have path for the instance to go out, right? So for that, what we can configure something is called as a NAT gateway, NGW. Using this NAT gateway, you can actually connect it from outside. So using this NAT gateway, you can go to the outside. In these instances, can access the internet. Okay? Using this NAT gateway, these instances can access the internet. Is it clear, team? So NAT gateway acts as a channel which helps the instances to access the outside world. So you must clearly understand how to implement a NAT gateway for your private VPC or private subnet, and you must know how to set up a VPC connection. Clear? So yeah, great. That's it. Yeah, NAT instance is different from NAT gateway. I'll just tell you that as well. 1 second. See, NAT instance means, see, you have to set up, you can set up a NAT instance if you want. But the problem with that is, if you set up a NAT instance, you have to configure the particular type of, the particular instance type which suits your requirement. And if the instance is actually a bit slower than the servers, or if you don't properly choose the instance, it can cause some troubles and all. But basically, in the latest newer scenarios, we are not using NAT instance. It is getting depreciated. It is not using. We are only using NAT gateways. The advantage of using NAT gateways is it can give a speed up to 45 Gbps. NAT gateways can give a speed up to 45 Gbps, and you don't have to patch the NAT. See, if you are using a NAT instance, you have to patch it, you have to update it, you have to do a lot of things. But the NAT gateway, it can give you a higher speed, like it can give you up to 45 Gbps speed as for now. And the second one is, you don't have to do patching, you can do a lot of things. It's automatically configured and the things will automatically scale. Yeah, gateway is completely managed. The scaling, the updates and everything is managed like your RDS, and it is actually having more speed than the NAT instance. NAT instances are not used now. In any production scenarios, we use NAT gateways now. Clear? That's it. So that's it. That's about NAT instance and gateway. So I'll tell you once again, in VPC, these are things you have to understand. VPC, you must know how to create a default VPC, or you must know how to create a custom VPC. You must know how to configure NAT. You must know how to configure Bastion host, and understand security groups and ACL. You must clearly have an understanding of the difference between security group and ACL. Can you just can you tell me the thin line difference between this security group and ACL? Anyone? Yeah, okay. Security group is okay. Okay. Then Yeah, just want to know the difference. See, security group, the first thing is security group is actually focusing on the instance. Security group is what we assign for the instance. Yeah, that's it. But at the same time, ACLs are attached on the subnet level. Don't forget. Security groups for the instance level and ACL for the subnet level. Okay. So understand that in depth. That's mandatory. The next thing you have to understand is you must know what is ELB.
Elastic load balancing.
Yeah, that we are going to discuss actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the next is ELB. So you have to have a thorough understanding of ELB and how it works. And ELB you don't have to learn in depth, but still for the exam point of view, which is ELB stands for Elastic Load Balancer. We basically have two types: application load balancer and network load balancer. Classic is actually not there now. So this Elastic Load Balancer, what exactly it does is understand the difference between NLB and ALB, application load balancer and network load balancer. For example, on ELB, the traffic which is coming to this instance is the TLS SL traffic which is coming to that instance is getting terminated in the Elastic Load Balancer, which actually offloads the processing overhead from the instance. At the same time, if you're using application load balancer, what happens is the traffic will actually decrypt only in the instance. So for example, if your complaint says that you want to have end-to-end encryption, that is your traffic must only decrypt or only terminate at the particular server, then you have to go for ALB or application load balancer. Clear, team? So the next is what we call as the next thing you have, VPC flow logs I told you, and you must know what is, yeah, that's it, SL offloading. That's what I say. And the next one you have to say is what about the Amazon DNS. Understand that Amazon DNS reserves some IP addresses. That is actually for the exam. Yes, EL auto scaling is actually these are all for scalability. ELB is actually kind of load balancing. At the same time, auto scaling actually scales your infrastructure as per your requirement. That's it. That's the difference actually. So the next thing which we will discuss is actually the Amazon DNS. For the exam point of view, understand that Amazon reserves 5 IP addresses from your subnet. For example, if I create a subnet with a slash value of 24, you are supposed to get 256 IPs there. If you use a subnet for the Amazon VPC with the value of slash 24 or with the CADR value of slash 24, you're supposed to get 256 IPs. But when you see that, you can see that you will get only 251 IPs. It is why? Because 5 IPs are reserved by Amazon. First IP is the network address. The second IP is the for the default router address. The third IP is for the Amazon DNS. The fourth IP is reserved, and the fifth one is broadcast address. Amazon will reserve the IP addresses. That is an interview question that is accessible in the exam. Okay, Amazon will reserve the 5 IP address from the list. Understand that? That's very important. Then the next service which you have to learn is the Shield. So Shield, what is Shield? It is a service which helps you to mitigate the DOS attacks or DDoS attacks. Okay, Shield is a service which helps to manage or mitigate the DDoS attack. So, what is the DDoS attack? Let's discuss it. What is the DDoS attack?
Dynamic denial of service.
Is it the same?
It's distributed denial of service.
Yeah, it is what we call as distributed denial of service. That is, you are flooding traffic from multiple locations to a particular server, which can bring down the particular server. Or whatever it is, you will flood a server with multiple requests so that the server will go down. Okay. So you must understand the best practices you have to do to avoid this DDoS. And for DDoS protection, the best service Amazon is offering is what you call as AWS Shield. AWS Shield is actually of two types. But the first one is AWS Shield Basic, and the second one is AWS Shield Advanced. The AWS Shield Basic is actually enabled and it is free of cost. It is there in all the accounts. AWS Shield Basic is free. But at the same time, AWS Shield Advanced is service which is actually you have to pay. AWS Shield Advanced is a bit more costly, but definitely for the industry level, it won't be that much costly. Currently, it is at the part of this BAP service as well. One second, I'll just show you that. Okay, I'll just click on go to AWS Shield. See, the Shield standard is by default enabled in your AWS account. But at the same time, if you want, you can enable AWS Shield Advanced. The cost is a bit high because the starting cost is from AWS rupees $3,000. The starting cost is $3,000 per month plus the additional fees. Approximately come around $3,500 approximate dollars per month. Okay, so that's why. But still, it is actually very much used. Why? Because if you enable AWS Shield Advanced advantages, you have a layer 7 application filtering. Also, you have a DDoS response team for you round the clock. If you have any attacks happening or if you have any issues with them, they will support you get back to normal and they will give you the best practices to also. So this is actually used by a lot of companies worldwide. And what are things we can do to prevent a DOS attack or DDoS attack? Okay, you block the bad box. No, what are things we can do to prevent a DDoS attack? Okay, perform a regular scan. Then what of things are there?
Firewall analyzer needs to be checked.
Yeah, you implement a firewall. You can use IDS solutions then. And one more thing is there actually. See, in this AWS, always make sure you enable auto scaling. See, the utmost concern of this DDoS attack is to bring the server down, right? But if you configure auto scaling, what happens is, as the attack comes, the server infrastructure or your application infrastructure will automatically scale so that the attack won't have much impact on your business process. So the second thing you have to understand is always make sure you have a secure access. Like you must have a proper DMZ zone. You properly isolate your resources. Auto scaling means, yeah, definitely it is economically sustainable. Auto scaling means it is not always right. Auto scaling means you are actually scaling. You are actually increasing or decreasing the infrastructure as per the requirements. I'll just give you an example. For example, if you have a server infrastructure, you can set the rule. Like for example, if I am setting the rule that if my traffic up to the instances is above this value, or if the CPU utilization of my instance is above a particular value, do auto scaling. That means that when the traffic is increased, the server will add to 1, 2, 3 like that will add, and when the traffic is reduced, it will go back to normal. Yeah, doing DDoS, the cost will get escalated. But if you have Shield enabled, definitely it will get huge cost. But the thing is, if you have Shield enabled, the advantages, AWS team will help you mitigate the attack, and also they will actually waive the cost which was happened during the attack time. For example, if you had an attack and if you had a suddenly spike in your infrastructure, thereby causing you a much more cost. If you have AWS Shield Advanced enabled, AWS DDoS response team will analyze that and the cost will not be affected for you. Clear?
Chris, I have a question.
Yeah, go on.
Once we enact AWS Shield or Advanced Shield options, platform, cloud platform. I mean, is there any instance wherein it could prevent any attack, or it will just mitigate to a certain extent?
Not like that. See, you cannot completely prevent any attacks like DDoS attack. You cannot completely prevent that. You cannot say I am completely foolproof from an attack. You cannot say it like that in DDoS. So what we can do is this will continuously monitor. This DDoS will continuously, this WAF will Shield will continuously monitor and make sure you have adequate protections. But still, if an attack happens, and somehow if an attack happens, this will help you respond to that immediately. That's all. Clear? And of course, that's why. Which one? One second. Yeah, you can set up the show on the process and resources. Yeah, okay, that's it. So after this, see, even you cannot prevent an attack, or you cannot prevent completely with the help of the shield only. You have to use the security groups. You have to properly configure the VPC. You have to properly configure CloudWatch, config, KMS or IAM. Lot of things you have to configure to make your infrastructure secure. It's not like you can use shield only to secure the complete infrastructure. Yeah, DDoS Shield is basically for remedy, but still it is not only like that. It can help you with the alerting as well. Yeah, the example steps. Okay, that means that, for example, if you have a DDoS attack happening in your infrastructure currently, you can just, for example, last time what happened is I had a web server infrastructure and we had a serious DDoS attack happening in that time. So what I done is, the first action which I done is, I just verified the attack and I saw that particular DOS attack, it was a DOS attack which is coming from a particular IP address. So immediately I went to the and actually blocked the IP address. Likewise, I have some specific steps to follow for mitigating attacks which is happening during this DDoS attack. Okay, clear? Yeah. Receive billion transactions. Yeah, exactly. That's also correct. See, if you want to configure an IDS IPS solution on AWS, basically we don't have a native control for that. So we can actually use third-party controls. Like we can go to EC2 and enable third-party IDS IPS solutions. I'll just give you an example here. I'll just show you that. One second. Sorry. I'll take EC2. First, you should block this. Yeah, if it is the same IP address or a particular number of IP addresses doing the same attack, you can actually block the IP addresses. And the response strategy is completely based on the organization. Yeah, how do we integrate the IDS IPS solutions? It's very easy. You can, I'll just give an example now. You can click on instances, and in the instances, you can click on launch instance. You can go to AWS Marketplace. You can type IDS IPS. See, you have a lot of third-party providers just having this IDS IPS solutions. You can use any of that as per your requirements. Based on your cost and all, you can use it. Okay? Clear, team?
Yeah, Krish.
Yeah. Great. So this is very important. Basically, when I teach this AWS security specialty, I focus very much on this. One second, just show you that. Yeah. The first thing you have to get in depth is the VPC. Because VPC, you must know what the network level. You have to make it very secure. Then you can just implement the other things like config, CloudWatch, all those things. Then you can do the things. The first thing you have to make sure is you have to make the building strong. That's what I say. You have to learn this VPC in depth. Okay, that's it. So that is about domain 3, which is the infrastructure security. That's it. But now, so the next one which we are going to focus is domain 4, which is the IAM. Actually, when I studied this module for my exam, when I start my AWS career, when I studied this module, I thought this was the most easiest one, and the very I just studied in a very small amount, so I thought it was very simple because IAM is nothing. But once I started working on AWS, and once I get a lot of use cases, new project scenarios, I understood that this IAM is what you have to learn from A to Z if you want to work with AWS. Because seriously, when I say, if somebody asks me in what order I have to give priority to this domains in the certification, I'll definitely say domain 4, which is IAM, is what your first priority. Domain 4 is IAM is the first priority. Understand that from the very basics, A to Z, you understand. IAM is what the exam is. If you go to any domain, like if you go to domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, or domain 5, IAM comes into picture. Without learning IAM, you cannot learn anything else in this particular exam, or in AWS as well. Why? Because identity and access management is that much critical when you consider in the point of security. So always focus on domain 4 first, then we can go to domain 3, then to domain 2, then domain 5, then to domain 1. That's the plan I suggest. Okay, anyway, just I will discuss that later. So in this domain 4 is actually identity and access management, which is a very important topic. In this domain, the first thing which we are going to study, or first thing we have to understand, is the AWS organizations. So what is AWS organization?
Organizations the AWS platforms.
And actually, when I'll say one thing, like if you are really planning to write this AWS associate or certification now, previously this topic was not much important. You may get a question or not, but now I guarantee that you will get a question from this AWS organization. Why? Because it is very important. Because organizations will help, AWS organization will help you to manage multiple AWS accounts you own in a single console. You can manage multiple AWS accounts. Like for example, if in my company, if I have some 100 accounts or 10 accounts, whatever it is, I can manage all those accounts using this centrally using this AWS organization. I'll just give you a use case on this. See, assume that I have some 10 plus accounts. One is for development, one is for testing, one is for deployment. So I have some 10 plus accounts currently. So what happens is, if I have multiple accounts like that, and if I want some users to occasionally log into every account, like I want some users to log into this first account 1, account 2, account 3, account 4, like that. So in a normal way, if you don't have this organization concept, what you will do is you will create this user separately in all these AWS accounts. And for example, if you change some permission, you have to go to each and every account and you have to change that. So, but at the same time, if you are using AWS organization, it helps you to consolidate, or it gets you to coordinate all your AWS accounts to a single managing account. And we have two options on the list. Show you that this is very important. Okay. See, AWS organizations helps you to centrally govern your environment as you grow and scale your workloads on AWS. That means that you can actually centralize a lot of activities like creating. Yeah, it's actually a single sign-on. It is actually a single sign-on. You have to get a really good idea of SSO here. It's actually a single sign-on. It helps you to do single sign-on. Okay, that's it. So AWS organization, you can automate the account creation, create group of accounts to reflect your business needs, and to apply for policies. That's the main point. And to apply policies for these groups for governance. You can apply policies for the groups for governance. That's very important. So you can implement this organization in two ways. AWS organization you can implement in two ways. The first way is you can do it for consolidated billing. I'll just show you an example. I just go to my account. I think it is having enabled. And just give me a second, I'll just show it to you. It is here somewhere. Yeah. One second. Does IAM covers application identity management? That again, application identity management is a different thing, but still you can integrate that to this IAM. It is possible. You can integrate that with IAM. It is possible. You see, federation. Got it, Jagat? That we have to configure manually. That we have to configure separately. Okay. So I'm in the console now. I'll go to organizations. Click on organization. So I'll just click on add accounts. I'll click on add accounts. So if I click on invite account, I can just put the ID of that particular account number here. For example, if I have multiple accounts, I can put the account ID of the other account here. And if I click invite, I have an option to connect to it. And one thing you can do is, once you've done that, you can actually do it in two ways. As I told you, the first thing is consolidated billing. That is to manage the billing centrally. You have two options. One is consolidated billing. That means you can manage the billing of all these AWS accounts centrally. The second one is all features. All features means you can centrally manage everything using this organizations. And of course, like your Active Directory, you can create OUs here. For example, if you have multiple organizations, you can create OUs, organization units, so that it will be easy to manage. Clear, team?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So organizations are very critical part. Why? Because once you do this organization, you can manage all these accounts in a central manner. You can manage SSO, you can do SAML authentication, you can do a lot of things, and also it helps you to do it in it lets you do it in two ways. The first one is consolidated billing, which helps you to manage the billing only. The second is all features, which will help you to manage everything. I'll just give an example. So I have an account here. Give me a second. I'll just show you an example. This is my central account. Sorry, this is my central account, account 1, and this is my account 2, and this is my account 3. What happens is, if I want to manage these two accounts from here, it is possible with the help of AWS organization. See this, I can manage. So if I say I create a policy here to deny CloudTrail access to this AWS account. So what happens is, even the root user of this account will be blocked from accessing this CloudTrail. If I say CloudWatch, prevent access to CloudWatch on this account. So what happens is, even the root user on this account will not have access to the CloudWatch thing. Is it clear, team? So AWS organization helps you to centrally manage all the activities in your AWS account. Clear? And it's always a good practice, or it is always recommended that you create multiple accounts in your organization in order to manage an AWS. Why? Because otherwise it will be a single point of failure, and if something goes wrong, your whole infrastructure can be in trouble. So in this case, what happens is, if you do it in this way, multiple organizations and organization, what happens is your account will be secure and you can manage it centrally. Is it clear, team? So do you have any doubts till now? So that's it. So the next thing which you have to study is the IAM. So IAM, before just going through important topics in this exam perspective, I will tell you what are things you must know. The first thing is you must know what is an user. You must know what is an IAM user. You must know what is a policy. You must know what is a role. You must know what are the strategies or what are the best practices to give permission to a user, and you must know. And one thing is IAM is always free. Don't forget, IAM is always free. And you must know how the IAM evaluates a policy. Okay, I'll just tell you a scenario. Just tell me what exactly the result is. See, currently I have some 5 users. I have 5 users. User 1 to user 5. I have 5 users. And for user 1, I have blocked him access to S3. I just created a policy which denies access for that user to a particular resource. Okay. I create a policy, it is called as inline policy. I create a policy for the user to deny access to a particular S3 bucket. And for all the users, I add them to a group and I say that the users in this group is allowed to have full access to Amazon S3. So I have, I just write it down. See this? I have users, user 1, user 2, user 3, and user 4. I have 4 users. All these 4 users are actually member of a group, and I have blocked this user 3 from accessing S3. And then I add these 4 users to a group and I say that these 4 users will be having full access to S3. So what is the effective permission that will be for user 3? Will he get access to Amazon S3 or not?
He won't.
He won't. Yeah. It will be denied. Why? Because deny permission always leads. Don't forget. Deny permission always leads. And in this you have to understand one more thing. 2 points you have to understand the exam. This is actually the most trickiest part I felt in some questions in the exam. I was actually very much worried with the exam because of these 2 points. You must carefully go through that IAM policy if you get a question in the exam. It's why? Because 2 things are there. One is deny by default, and the second one is implicit deny. What is the difference? Yeah, we can implement role-based access. So what is the difference between deny by default and implicit deny? Can anyone say? What is the difference between deny by default and implicit deny? Any difference, team? So I'll just give an example.
Yeah.
What is the go on, please. Go on.
Yeah, there is a difference. Implicit deny means it will create a logs for that denier, and default deny it will not create a logs for that denier.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Exactly. So I'll just give an example. So what is the permission a user gets, or what is the default permission of a IAM user? When I create IAM user, what is the permission that user is having? Exactly. The user will not have any permission. That's the key point. By default, the user is denied. Denied by default. By default, the user is denied from accessing all the resources. Unless otherwise, we implicitly or explicitly allow a particular resource. For example, I allow an user to access Amazon S3. That means that that user can only access Amazon S3 in the particular level I see. See, in this topic, this point you have to be very careful. AAA, authentication, authorization, and accountability. Because you may get a question from this point. Authentication, authorization, and accountability. So I will give you an example. You log into your AWS account. When you log into your AWS account, they will ask you for a username and password. They will ask you for your MFA, those kind of things. That's what we call as authentication. And once you log into your AWS account, what all resources you are allowed to access? That is what we call as authorization. And managing the records for all things you do in your record is called as accountability. This is very critical for the exam. Just note that down. That's very important. Okay. So by default, when you create a user, the user is having no permission. That means that if I give a user a permission called as EC2 read-only access, that means the user will be having EC2 read-only access only. He will not be able to access S3 or any other services. But the same time, implicit deny means whatever permissions I give to the user, if there is a deny permission which is applied for the user will not be allowed. For example, the same case if I just say discuss. See, by default, if I don't do any permission for the user, by default, if I add these 4 users to a group and if I tell them that they are allowed to just have read-only access, that means that the user will only get read-only access. At the same time, if I just give this user 3 deny access to S3, and if I add all these users to a group and I'll tell them that the users are allowed to have complete access to S3, then also the user will be denied access. It is why? Because deny takes precedence always. Don't forget. Implicit deny takes precedence. Don't forget. And also, so assume that I am these 4 users are member of a group, and the group is allowed to have full access to a EC2 instance. Okay. For example, I'll just give an example here. All these 4 users are allowed to have full access to S3. Okay. So these 4 users are member of a group, and these 4 users are allowed to have full access to Amazon S3. And I go to this user and specify a policy, allow S3 read-only access. So what is the effective permission user 3 will get? This is very important for the exam. So for the group, I have given full access to Amazon S3, and for the user 3, I have said that it is actually having read-only access. So what is the permission he will get? Please do this. Are you sure? So first of all, we'll analyze this. Do we have any deny policy in this? See, basically you have to understand that there is no deny policy in this. That is the first thing you have to understand. There is no deny policy in this. Everything is allowed, right? So that means that this user 3 is having allow policy here. He is allowed to access Amazon S3, which is in read-only format. You can just view the contents. And all these 4 users, which are the member of a group, I am assigning that they will have complete full access. So think again. Do we have any deny permission in this?
It will be full access.
It will be full access. That's it. The user will get full access. It's why? Because there is no deny permission defined. See, when the IAM evaluation takes place, what happens is they will evaluate. Okay, first of all, they will verify any deny is there. No deny is there. So first, for the group level or for the user level, okay, he is having a read-only permission. So that means for the user, you have read-only permission. That doesn't mean that he is blocked from accessing anything else if you get another permission. The second one is, in the group level, you are saying we have full access to Amazon S3. So the highest permission leads. Unless otherwise there is a deny, implicit deny permission defined, the user have complete access here. Is it clear, team? Do you have any doubts here in this implicit deny and deny by default? That's very important for the exam actually. Any doubts?
No, Krish.
Yeah. So still now actually we have one more option. Actually, I'll just show you that. 1 second, just 1 second. I'll just show you that. I know you're not able to view my screen. 1 second. That slide is actually protected. That's why. Let me see, it is there. No, okay, no problem. It's not there. Just explain, no problem. Okay, and now in this exam, for the last some 4 to 5 months, they have a new thing called as new thing, which is for the exam called as permission boundary. That is already there, but in the last few times it was actually testable. So which is called as permission boundary. So permission boundary means, see, I'll just explain that also. Don't get confused. See, for this user 3, I am actually giving a permission boundary. Permission boundary. That means that this user can get read-only access to S3. So what happens is, if I set a permission boundary like this, what all permissions I apply to that user, the permission will only be restricted below this. That means that if I have a permission boundary assigned, the user will not get full access to S3. Why? Because the user is allowed to have read-only access maximum for S3 with this permission boundary. This permission boundary is actually there in the exam for a while. You have to learn that as well. Permission boundary is mandatory. Just show you that. Just want to show you a picture. That's it. See this. See, it must be a subset. See this. Even if I give a user a lot more permissions based on anything, if a permission boundary is assigned, the user will get permission only based on that permission boundary. That's also testable in the exam. Clear, team? Are you able to follow my session?
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay. So I'll actually continue to the next one. 1 second. Yeah. And the third thing you have to be very familiar in this, even it is not like I suggest for my students, what I do is I will actually teach them this cross-account policy and all the things in the associate level as well. Why? Because see, if you want to work in AWS in a company, this cross-account management is very important. For example, I know definitely when you go to a company, when you work with a company, definitely you may have multiple AWS accounts. It's a very rare case that you have only one single AWS account to manage all the things. So even if you're a AWS certified associate level person or professional or whatever it is, this thing is very important, which is the cross-account trust. Why? Because you must know how to connect between multiple accounts. Cross-account trust means you can actually assign, like you can actually configure multiple AWS accounts with the help of organizations to connect and to have the authentication mechanisms each other. This is very important and testable for the exam for sure. And even if it is not for the exam as well, this is there in your job always. Okay, that's very important. And the next one is federation SSO that we discussed now. The second last point is very important, which is called as the AWS Directory Services. See, when I say the word AWS, what is an Active Directory? Can I explain what is an Active Directory? And what is the use of an Active Directory? What is an Active Directory? Anyone?
So Active Directory actually contains all the user credentials.
Yeah, then
First of all, who are the users in the domain and what are the user credentials assigned to them, the privileges, and all that.
Yeah,
so it is of Microsoft.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So it's a centralized management user accounts to manage entire. Yeah, I'll just from the start I'll explain because those who don't not aware, I just have to understand. So basically, in your Windows machine, if you have a Windows machine, like currently I am having, I assume that I am having a Windows machine. In a Windows machine, if you have multiple use, for example, if I in my company, if I have some 100 computers or 1,000 computers or more than that, So what happens is, the users you create in your account, basically the users you create in your account will be local. That means that, for example, if I create a user called as user 1 this computer, it will be in this computer only. It is why? Because that user database which is saved in this computer is actually what you call as SAM, Security Accounts Manager. See, that means that, for example, if I create a user in this computer, I just click on the user, and if I create a new user here, see this, if I create a new user, the user is getting created inside a database called as SAM. So the problem in the corporate world, you cannot use a shared identity, this kind of like scattered identities you cannot use, right? So what I'll do is, if I have 100 computers, I have to manually go to that 100 computers and create separate users for each of them. And for each, for example, if I want to assign a permission to a person, so I go to this 100 computers separately and I do that. It is not practically possible in a company. So what we'll do is, we can use something called as Microsoft Active Directory. Microsoft Active Directory is a centralized database. Microsoft Active Directory is a centralized database which acts as a container, or it acts as a centralized database for users, groups, organizational units, etc. That means that if I create an Active Directory, if I configure an Active Directory server, which is called as domain controller, the server which is having this AD installed is called a domain controller. So in that particular Active Directory server, what I can do is I can create multiple n number of accounts. I can create millions of accounts, and those accounts will be able to log into all the clients of that particular AD server. This Active Directory is based on a protocol called as LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. So Active Directory is the LDAP implementation of Microsoft. Don't forget, okay? Active Directory is the LDAP implementation of Microsoft. So Active Directory is a centralized database which is by Microsoft to manage users and those kind of credentials centrally. And the advantages, you can set a lot of things like policies, permissions, etc. for Active Directory. And the database file of Active Directory is called as ntds.dat. Don't forget, the database file of Active Directory is called as ntds.dat. So AWS Active Directory Server or AWS Directory Service is something which is like we can implement this AD and a bit more on AWS. I'll just show you an example now. 1 second. It is better I show it to you practically, otherwise you will not understand. Yeah, directory service. You click on this directory service, and in that, yeah, you can click on setup directory, and you have 3 options here. The first one is AWS Managed Microsoft Active Directory. The second one is Simple AD, and third is AD Connector. So first of all, I'll tell you what is AD Connector. That will be easy. So AD Connector means if you have an Active Directory infrastructure on premises, that means if I have an Active Directory server on my on-premises, if I want to connect my on-premises AD to my AWS account to centrally manage users and all, I can use this AD Connector. AD Connector is actually used, it's a proxy for redirecting directory requests to your existing Active Directory. That's the main thing you have to understand. So it is actually, if you want, you can implement that in your local on-premise. For example, if you have an Active Directory in on-premises, you can use this AD Connector to connect to that particular AD so that you can authenticate users very well. It will be very easy. And this is just a connector. But the Simple AD, you can see, the Simple AD is that you can, it is actually a Linux-based thing. It's a Linux-based LDAP server. It is not the Microsoft implementation of Active Directory. It's a minimized version of it. I'll just give an use case for it. For example, assume that you have some 100 instances running, or if you have some thousands of workspaces, Amazon Workspace, it's a desktop service, right? So if you have some hundreds of instances or workspaces, what you can do is you can use a Simple AD to authenticate all the users in that. For example, you can create users here, and the users can centrally log into any servers in your infrastructure. Clearly, Simple AD is a standalone managed directory service that is powered by Linux server. That means that even if you is using a Linux machine or Windows machine or whatever, you can authenticate with the help of the Simple AD. So in my currently in the infrastructure I managed, I am currently managing. What I am basically doing is I have some almost some 15 plus servers currently, 15 plus instances I am running, and I for my academic purposes, training purposes, and all, I have a lot of user accounts. To manage all that centrally, what I'll do is I create this Simple AD, and in the Simple AD I can create any number of users, and that users will be able to authenticate to this EC2 instances. Also, you can integrate IAM with this. Is it clear, team? And this one, which is called as the AWS Managed Microsoft AD, is completely the actual Microsoft implementation of Active Directory. Don't forget, it is the what you see in real time actually. Because what exactly you do in the on-premises, that is what you call as this Microsoft AD. You can implement this Microsoft AD so that you can use the AD-aware workloads on AWS to connect to this Microsoft AD. So what is the difference between this Microsoft AD and Simple AD? Simple AD capability is limited. That means that you cannot have trust and all. I hope you know that trust. What is in trust and all, right? So, for example, if you have multiple domains and all, if you want to manage the trust between them and all, you cannot do this with the Simple AD. But if you do this Microsoft AD, you can actually connect to any other domain from anywhere as well. Clear? So, directory service is one of the things which you have to study in depth for this exam. So, the next one is actually S3 bucket policies. So, what is a bucket policy? What is a bucket policy? Anyone can anyone say what is a bucket policy? What is a bucket policy? Anyone? Okay, it's a rule for access of this in S3, then it gives access to users. So what is the difference between bucket policy and IAM policy? For example, if I create a user and if I restrict the access to S3, but S3 like the value of the user, that's also possible, right? Then why do I want to have a bucket policy? So I'll give you a use case for this. That we don't have much time to explain all that, but still I'll give you a use case for this. Assume that an user is having complete permission to access Amazon S3. I have a user and he is having the complete permission to access the S3 bucket. And in the bucket policy I have defined that the user is denied access to his bucket. What will be his effective permission on that? What will be his effective permission on that?
It will be denied.
It will be denied. Okay. So this bucket policy is also a method of protecting your data. It's actually a resource-based policy. Okay. So one thing, this S3 bucket policy is very critical when you learn this identity and access management, because I got some 3 to 4 scenario questions on this. Scenario questions means in that options itself you will see a lot of JSON policies, and based on the S3 bucket policies you see there, you have to verify what access he will get. It's very easy. I'll just teach you that later. So that's it about this domain 4. I always suggest this domain 4 is very critical. Go for IAM, organizations, directory service, and bucket policies. In that, learn this IAM in depth, because we are actually dealing about security in this course. So always make sure you go through IAM in depth, because you can expect a lot of questions from that. And the last domain, which is small one, but you can just see, even if it's a small domain, it is having 22%. See, this is having 22% of the exam. You have a very limited number of topics in this. See, you have some very small topics, just simple things. But in this domain, you have a lot of things to study. The first one is KMS. KMS stands for Key Management Service. KMS stands for Key Management Service. So before just going through those key management service, I'll just start up with HSM. What is an HSM? Can anyone say what is an HSM? I hope somebody, at least somebody worked with the HSM nowadays. Not in AWS, just as what is HSM? Hardware security module. What is it? Hardware security module. What is HSM? Anyone say? Yeah, what is that? I know it's hardware security. What is that? Yeah, it's a device. The HSM is actually a device which is used for managing your, it's a hardware chip or it's a hardware device like your firewall to encrypt your data or to store your encryption keys. It's actually too much costly. I'll just show you that. Example, I'll show you that. Not on the HSM, just hardware security module. If you can go to the price and all, you can see how much it will cost. See, you have a SafeNet. See this. See the cost. It's actually very much costly. The advantage is the HSM is actually a device which helps you to secure your keys and data with the help of encryption. And if somebody tries to tamper with this device, it can completely erase the data. It's a completely highly secure one. And if you want to meet with some compliance and standards, if you want to meet with some security compliance and standards, HSM must be there near premises. But definitely it is too costly. So what we can do is we can use something called, in AWS, what we can use is we can use something called as Cloud HSM. Cloud HSM is also like your hardware HSM you have in your premises. It's like that. In what AWS is using is SafeNet Luna. Okay, this is the device which AWS is using for the HSM. Sorry, SafeNet Luna. See this. This is what AWS is using. So whenever you configure this HSM, what happens is AWS will store this. AWS will store your keys, what we call as the encryption keys. You know what is encryption key, right? You cannot encrypt and decrypt the data without an encryption key. So this encryption key is actually saved in this HSM module. So when you trigger or when you configure hardware HSM in AWS, what happens is you have to even if you don't have to purchase the device, the cost is a bit high. I'll just show you that. It is exactly like you have a hardware HSM device on your premises. Because when you configure it, they are dedicating the device for you only. Okay, they will not store the same key file on multiple people's key pair on the same HSM. They have separate HSM modules for different people. That is why you have very high cost for HSM. So in this AWS Certified Security Specialty exam, you don't have to know much about this HSM, but still you have to understand it in a different, understand that is a very important thing for compliance, and that is very. I'll just show an example if it is there. Let me see. 1 second. No, I don't have it. Sorry. So HSM is HSM is what which helps. I'm getting a message. Yeah, it is $5,000. Initially, it is $5,000, and for every minute it is $2. Yeah. And the next thing is KMS. KMS means it is like HSM, but KMS is a service which helps you to manage or encrypt the keys in AWS. But KMS also uses the Cloud HSM in background. But the advantage is in KMS the cost is very less. The cost is very less when compared to all the other providers. The KMS is offering very cheaper encryption service than any other provider. This is actually very much testable in the exam. You can expect more than 5 to 6 questions from this KMS topic. Why? Because this is actually the most important part, even if you consider S3 or anything. Because KMS will help you to encrypt the data key which encrypts your data. For example, just give you an example. So you have a data in your Amazon S3, and that particular data is encrypted with a key, which is a data key. and that data key is entered with the help of KMS. So only if an application, only if a resource, only if a person wants to decrypt the data, he first of all contacts the KMS, and if he is only having permission to decrypt, then only he will get the data key, and from the data key only he will be able to decrypt the data. KMS is the most important and very critical part of this compliance, data security and compliance thing. This is very important. KMS is actually guarantee question for the exam. You will get a lot of things from KMS as well. So KMS stands for Key Management. I will tell you once again. KMS stands for Key Management Service, and in this KMS, you can encrypt your data with the help of the master key, and that particular master key is stored in this KMS, so that in background it is storing it in XSM itself. Clear? More doubts, team? Any doubts? KMS, you have any doubts, team? Great. That's it. That's about KMS. And understand that in KMS, it is actually FIPS 140-2 validated, and it is the best part is it is pay as you go basis. For cloud HSM, you have a lot of you have to pay a lot, like $5,000, $6,000 initially. At the same time, if you are using KMS, there is no initial cost, and you are using only for pay as you go. The cost is very less when compared to HSM. It's very much cheaper. It's compliant with a lot of third-party standards, and that's it. And the last one which we are discussing is about the CloudFront. You know what is CloudFront, right? CloudFront is what you call as the CDN, Content Delivery Network. What is the use of CloudFront? Anyone? What is the purpose of CloudFront? What is the purpose of CloudFront?
No idea.
Yeah, it is, for example, I'll just give an example on CloudFront. Yeah, for example, if you have a website, I'll just give a simple example. If you have a website,
It's location. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
okay. That's it. Yeah. For example, if you have a website configured in India, example, currently I am in India location. So if you have a website configured in India, and if you try to access the website from any other countries or any other continents, what happens is the request traffic have to travel all the way to this place or to the particular server to access the content, right? So the problem is when we do this, the website may not be the website may not load, or maybe the website page will drop. To avoid this, we configure something called as CDN. What CDN does is CDN will cache the contents of your web server to the edge locations, that is like your data centers. The CloudFront or any other CDN, the CDN will cache the content of your website to multiple locations worldwide, so that a user which is accessing from any other continent or any other country can access the nearby edge location instead of going to the origin or the source server. So page will load much faster. It can use a lot of purposes are there. It will improve the page loads. The page will load much faster. And the second one is it will actually help you to reduce the traffic to the origin web server. A lot of things are there. The CDN is very important. You can configure data protection and encryption in CDN as well. That also is very important. The exam. Yeah, I got a message. If time permits, CMK. Yeah, actually, the CMK in KMS is like what exactly means is you have a data. I just explain the KMS once again. One person is having some doubt. So you have a data in any location, S3 or whatever it is. You have S3 or EDS, whatever it is. You have a data. You are encrypting the data. So when you encrypt, you will be having a data key, right? That key is actually used to decrypt. So we are storing that data key in KMS with the help of something called as a CMK, customer master key. That customer master key, for example, if I want to decrypt the data in my S3, first of all I have to contact KMS to get the decrypted data key. So the encryption and decryption happens in this KMS so that the particular thing will be completely safe. Don't forget. Okay. So the master key is something which is encrypting your data key. The data key is something which is encrypting your data. Don't forget. Clear? And you can always define this this master key or customer master key with your own material. If you want, you can give your own key material and you can encrypt. That's also possible. That's all we have to show demo for this exam. It's very important. Even if it's not testable for the exam, it's there for the exam. Even if it is not recommended, but you have to learn that in an industry practice. That's very important. Clear, team? So these are the things which is there in the exam. So now you can ask your doubts if you have anything on this program. It's not over. So hope you understood this. This is very important. This is not like it's very easy to pass this exam. The only thing is you focus on some specific topics. You understand the security concepts of it. And I always suggest, even if you are not a security guy or not, I always suggest you go through this particular page. I'll just show you that. 1 second. Yeah, I always suggest you go through this page. This page is very important. This page I always suggest you go. Okay. I'll just put it in the chat box. Yeah. This page I suggest you always go through. This is very important for that. Just go through this page. Sorry, I just send it to somebody else. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. You can just go through this. It's really good, really helpful. And if you have any doubts, you can keep in touch with me. And that's it. More doubts, team? Any more doubts? Anyone? Any doubts? Or session is not over? Any doubts?
No.
Yeah. And how do you feel the exam? Is it? It'll be easy, right? Because than any of the exams. I see when I write my exam, I felt this exam very easy. It's why? Because when you write a professional, AWS certified solutions architect professional, this will be far more easier than that if you focus on what exactly you study. And not only that, if you want to work in AWS, definitely this knowledge is mandatory. Because you study everything, like you study almost all the service in this associate level thing. So in that, how to implement that securely, or what are the best practices to do security for those kind of things. That's what we study in this AWS Certified Security Specialty Certification. Okay. And one more thing I suggest, and I'll just share a Google form. If you just share me the feedback of what you felt about our session today, I'll just share it in the chat box. Hope everyone can see it. Got it in? And I just got some questions from here. Okay, there is no prerequisite for writing the exam. It is better you will be having some very basic associate level knowledge is mandatory. That's all. Though there is no certification prerequisites for this exam, and AWS Cloud Security is focusing on security only. But the solution architect professional is actually something which is a bit more wider. I don't suggest that. Why? Because if you are AWS associate level, like AWS Solutions Architect associate level, that will do the job. But professional thing, it's really good. But than that, if you do the security advantages, you can have a lot more in focus, or you can actually get more idea of the secure implementations what we can do. Can a vulnerable app to be deployed by AWS in secure? Yeah, that also, but that you can do in a sandbox. That's even if in AWS or on-premise as well, you can sandbox that app and do it. Avinash. Yeah. It is more than professional. Actually, there is no level for that. Previously, if you want to write as I told you, if you want to write a security specialty exam, you have to go to professional. But now it's not like that. A professional is actually different. Specialty is different. Specialty is you are focusing on the security or networking only. That's it. Clear? So I suggest you all make sure you fill this form actually, so that we will be able to know if the session was useful for you. Got the form, everyone? And you can ask the doubts. Yeah, the certification validity is 3 months. Sorry, it's been 3 years. Sorry, the certification validity is 3 years. Previously, it was 2 years. Like till some 6 months or 1 year back, it was 2 years. But now all the AWS certifications the validity is 3 years. It is not 2 years, it is 3 years. Yeah, there is no official curriculum for this certification, but there is a way. See, you can just undergo some training if you want. Also, to prepare for certification, the best thing you have to, even if you have training, the one thing you have to have is the white papers. I recommend some white papers for you. These white papers are very critical. You can just go through it. You can just go through AWS Security white papers. See, a lot of white papers are there for security in AWS. See this. And focus on the search for security. You get a lot of white papers on that. This will help you to do this with ease. Okay. And there is no actual slide for it, but the slide I just shown you from my personal collection. That's why I just made the slides myself. Yeah. Mode out team?
No.
Yeah. So great. Yeah. And always keep in touch. If you want, you can just keep in touch. This is my. You can search me on LinkedIn as well. I'll be available. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, team. Have a nice time. Yeah, there's one more question. Yeah, 1 second. No. This is the latest version. It got revised a few months back. So there is no chance that you'll get a new exam for the next 1.5 years. After that, it will be updating. The content may change. That's all. And if you want to have a session recording team, you can just contact your coordinator. Actually, they will share you the session information. Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can just contact me on LinkedIn as well. I'll just share the details. Give me a second. I'll just share the details. You can contact me on LinkedIn if you want. Give me a second, please. I'll just share.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, it is.
I want to know how much will cost AWS certification.
Yeah, for any professional or specialty certification, the cost is $300. For any associate level certification, the cost is $150. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just share my LinkedIn profile with you. If you want any, if you have any concerns, I'll just yeah. Let me see. I have some errors here. 1 second.
And secondly, can we have the presentation documentation for this training?
Actually, the documentation, everything is actually part of this AWS only. You can get it from the AWS website. I don't have it personally with me. I just Google it from AWS as well. And the presentation actually it's signed by it's actually AWS signed. Yeah, I'll just 1 second, team. Don't go. I'll just share my LinkedIn ID.
Yeah.
I was actually stuck up in with my browser. That's why. Give me a second. Yeah, Infosec is providing the certification. I think the new batch is starting on September. I mean, November 2nd, not September, November 2nd. Yeah, starting a new batch. So this is my LinkedIn ID. If you want, you can just contact me on LinkedIn as well. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, one more question. How long the trainings will be there? How long it will be?
you're asking about the certification training, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it is actually 30 hours training, which is starting this November 2nd, I think. You can just contact with the training coordinator as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will be this online training, right?
Yeah, that's an online training. Training.
The live training, I mean.
Live training, yeah, live training.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, the training is 18 hours, but I have made it 30 hours because I want to make it more practically oriented. That's why it took 30 hours, because we have to do all this, and only you will understand. That's why. Okay.
So, will you providing any simulators kind of things for this, or we have to? Okay.
Not like that. See, I'll show you that. I'll show you all the labs with my AWS account. If you have an AWS account, if you have a paid AWS account, you can do almost all the labs. No problem. Okay. So, I had a nice time, team. Very, very thank you for you all. Bye.